Life is about risks. We want to minimize risks, especially when we're working in the lawn and garden. There's a group of scientists out there called toxicologists whose responsibility is to understand compounds and things we encounter on our day-to-day lives as whether they're toxic and at what level the toxicity occurs. So risk equals toxicity times exposure. So by using least toxic approaches, we can minimize our risk. I want to talk today specifically about toxicology or toxicity. Toxicity is defined often as an LD50, which stands for lethal dose, which kills 50% of a population of surrogate animals like guinea pigs and rats and other things. And that's how we measure, because we can't really reasonably do testing on humans. The higher the LD50, the lower the toxicity. That's because LD50 is the amount in milligrams per kilogram of body weight that it would take for a 50% probability that an individual would pass away. It sounds really, really horrible, but the reality of it is that if you understand a little bit about toxicology and toxicity, you can do a better job in making the choices of the things you encounter on a day-to-day basis, not only in the home and garden, but just off the shelf. We've moved into the lab to show you some commonly consumed articles, as well as the herbicide glyphosate, to get a better understanding of what it means to be toxic or to have an LD50. Remember, the higher the LD50, the lower the toxicity. Now let's take a look at these each individually from the highest to the lowest toxicity. The most toxic of the compounds is common baby aspirin. It has an LD50 of 200 milligrams per kilogram. The least toxic is dihydrogen oxide, commonly known as water, but it does have an LD50. The LD50 exceeds 10,000 for water. Table salt has a LD50 of 3,000 milligrams per kilogram. Sugar, which is 10 times less toxic than salt, has a LD50 of 30,000 milligrams per kilogram. And one of my favorites, caffeine in coffee, has an LD50 of approximately 140 milligrams per kilogram. The herbicide glyphosate has an LD50 of 5,600 milligrams per kilogram, making it one of the least toxic of all of the articles in front of us. It's important you understand that we're certainly not saying that you can consume Roundup. That is not what we're saying. What we are saying, however, is that when you work with any product or when you're eating, things are going to have a certain level of toxicity to them. And let's be careful when we use herbicides or any pesticide for that matter in the environment.